we go. Give me 1 second, folks. Let me just make sure we're good. Hi, Facebook, we're ready to roll. All right. And I gotta tell you, I just love the new format of this show. Used to be very structured, but now it's very authentic. So, all right, folks. Used to be very structured, but now it's very authentic. So, very organic, I should say. All right, so. Good afternoon, good morning, good whatever time of day. If you're consuming this on the Move Swiftly podcast, great to have you for consuming this live, either on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook. Here we go again. Another Tuesday. If you're new around here, here's what we do every single Tuesday. We break down a top 5 Tuesday. I create a top 5 list of some sort, usually depending on the theme of the week. And all week, we are breaking down the numbers. We're breaking down the numbers, how to judge the numbers, what the numbers mean, what the numbers are all about. How exactly do you look at numbers and draw real conclusions? It is so much deeper than surface level stuff that the world tries to push on us. All right, so we're breaking down the top 5 ways to judge the numbers today. That's what we're going to break down today. Before I get started, let me just introduce myself to anybody that may be new to my world or new to me or new to everything I'm about. Just give you the introduction I normally give. First and foremost, the name. I know it's probably difficult for most of you guys to pronounce. It is Aswan Crookshank. I'll say it nice and slow so you guys don't mispronounce it. Aswan Crookshank. All right, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and current 5-time, soon to be 6-time published author and educator. What I do, what I created, what the whole Move Swiftly business is all about is taking the innovative teamwork lessons that you learn on the football field and aligning them with businesses and business owners so they have a group of employees and a staff that moves as efficiently, as eagerly, has the same exact type of passion and dedication that a championship youth or high school football team has. That is what we do. If you are interested in that kind of stuff, be sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share this out with anybody that you know may be interested in employee development. That's what it is all about here. We simply, as you see in the shirt, this isn't a shirt from my company, but I wear it because I agree with the saying: educate, empower, and commit. That is what we create. That's what we create for business owners when it comes to them help or dealing with a staff, trying to create a motivated staff, trying to create a motivated culture in which you get dedicated people. I cannot stress the importance of that. You need dedicated people, dedicated to something productive that you as a business owner can bring this person in. And then you say, okay, that person says, okay, I'm dedicated to doing this. So I may not like what you're telling me to do, but I'm going to do it because I have a level of dedication towards something. Dedication is really, really important. In fact, just because I'm staying on this for a little bit, I'm going to write this down. Dedication. We're gonna break that down. One of the themes very soon is gonna be about dedication. Might be next week. I already have the idea of what I'm gonna be talking about next week in my head. Maybe that'll be a 2-week process. I don't know. But anyway, you guys just saw, again, if you're new to me, you guys already just see how I come up with ideas and why I'm so consistent when it comes to putting out content. All right. So before we get into the top 5 list today, let me just get through a couple of announcements. I've switched up the way slightly switched up the way I normally do my announcements. So let's break it all down here. First and foremost, if you are in the Boca Raton area, I've officially opened up the boxing lessons back for business. I'm officially back in business when it comes to the boxing lessons, especially seeing that I'm doing this recording in the beginning of May. And as I currently, as a teacher, I take some time. The summer months are always months in which you can either sink or swim. All right, straight up, you can either sink or swim. You can either be that teacher that kind of takes it easy during that June, July, August, or you could be the teacher that decides to grind and put that work in. So what I've decided to do is, obviously, seeing that I'm not necessarily licensed or certified to be a teacher, I kind of just fell into it because of my books and because of my intellectual property. I have decided that I'm going to start back up doing boxing lessons for a fee. Now, it's a little different. I do free boxing lessons every 2 weeks, but this is going to be actually something that people are paying for, and this is how it's going to work, all right? It's $25 per class. I'm only taking 10 people. I'm only taking 10 people, and it will be in the Boca Raton, Florida area. This is a very specific group of people I'm looking for. It's going to be Sundays at 11 a.m., Monday 7:30, Tuesday, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday 7:30. And it's limited, like I said, limited to 10 people per class, and corporate discounts are available. Meaning, if you're a company and you would prefer, you want to be in a situation where you want a corporate discount, I can drop from 20, if I can go from 25 to maybe a number where it's corporate, where again, that person from that company, and we have all 10 from there. So that's how it's going to work. It's very, very niche, very, very specific to companies that are committed to professional development and committed in some way. It's always going to tie in. This is actually a lesson for you business owners early. Whenever you decide to work with someone or decide to create a new project, it's always got to be about what's going to be complementary to your main thing. My main thing is employee development workshops. So if I'm going to be taking part of any project, anything I'm going to be doing, it has to be complementary towards the main goal and the main focus. That's important for you guys to understand, because as we get in alignment and as we focus and we break down the numbers today, especially today when we start breaking down the numbers, it starts from the mindset. It starts from what exactly are you paying attention to? Where are you going to be investing? What's going to be the value? What's going to be the opportunity? All of that stuff plays a role, and you got to know it. Don't just simply do shit to do shit. All right. Don't just simply do shit to do shit. Don't just have it to have it, because then you end up wasting people's time, wasting people's money, and the whole thing just sort of goes to shit for you. But you got to really focus on what's going to be complementary, what's going to be the best move for not only just yourself, but for the people as well. So seeing that, again, I do what I do for you. Everything I do is for you business owners, for you folks that really struggle with turnover, really struggle with creating and figuring out how you're going to have a cohesive staff. I also created a free guide for you, free guide right now. Go to freeguide.makeyourmove.com. If you're a podcast listener, I am here on freeguide.makeyourmove.com. Just like it says on the website, maintain a cohesive staff. Get my free guide right here. It makes it really easy for you. Simply put your information in and you will get a free guide. Now, also with the boxing theme fitness, that all you got to do, you don't have to pay. You have to pay the money until after the class, by the way. So I forgot to mention that. And so with the free guide, again, here are the tips. I created a 10-step process that you can use right now to build out your staff. And here are the things that you will be getting. Number one, you need to be establishing measurables, which we're going to get in. We're going to get into today as we go through the top 5 list. Also, there needs to be professional distance. One of the things that I've seen quite a bit is folks who get too close to their staff, get too close to employees, get too close to the people that they work with, that by the time it becomes to make difficult decisions, whether it is letting the person go, whether it is deciding, hey, I'm going to replace that person with some new technology, whether it's AI or some bot or whatever it is, it becomes hard because you haven't made sure you've established a professional distance. And number 3, productive environment. A productive environment. You have got to have that. You cannot have people in your office or in your place of business that are just sucking up the time and just energy drainers, just dead weight, basically dead weight. You don't want that. Trust me when I tell you, you do not want that for your organization. All right. So that's all I got for the announcements today. And we're going to get right into what it is, what today's topic is all about. And before I get into the article, I want to just kind of give you guys a quick recap of yesterday's show, yesterday's Make Your Move Kickoff, Monday's Make Your Move Kickoff question, and remind you of that tone, remind you of exactly what I was saying, remind you of some of the things that we learned yesterday in regards to what do the numbers actually say? Like, seriously, what do the numbers actually say? What is it about the numbers and how you're judging them in your own mind? What do they say and how do you interpret what they say? Because for me, it's all about it's all about how many times a person is trying. All right. It's all about how much time a person is spending really focused and dedicated to their craft. How long is a person willing to live in a situation, live in a difficult situation in order for their long-term goals and their long-term plans and the things that they want to do with their business or their career to survive, because they know, hey, they need the money. Are you willing? I'm going to put the question out there. Are you willing to live out of a damn car for however long it takes until your business actually goes to where it is you want to go to? That has to be, these are the questions that you need to be asking yourself. And when you ask yourself the numbers, all right, the numbers, it's about how much are you willing to sacrifice? How much? That's how you really judge the numbers. And that's what we got into. That's what we got into quite a bit yesterday. So as far as today, as usual, what I do is I take the theme and then we break down a top 5 list. And if you're not following me on Medium, make sure you're doing that now, because what I'm really thinking about doing and considering, and it'll probably be with some of the business owners that I work with or that are interested in employee development. But if you do follow me on Medium, currently I'm working on book number 6, so I'm kind of scrimmaging it in my mind, trying to figure out what the details will be in terms of possibly, giving a free book from the new book that I have coming out. It's called How to Be a Wintrepreneur. The pre-orders will be ready sometime around football season. And if you're following me on Medium, what I'm thinking about doing is sending out free copies of the book to my Medium followers, depending on how it works and stuff like that. So we will see, as you can see here on Medium, and Medium's not like most social platforms. They're actually meant for readers, people that do like to read, people that do like to gather information. And there's a strong sense there. As you can see, it's member only. So you got to be a member to be able to read these accounts, to read these articles. It's not going to be like LinkedIn. That's why you see me more so posting articles on Medium and not as much as I used to on LinkedIn, because these are actual members. These are people that are paying something to, be a part of Medium, and they're actually reading the material. And one of the cool things is my Medium account is actually monetized the same way as YouTube, and that was actually a big part of the reason. That was a big part of the reason I put this book out. Actually, that was a big part. Once that happened, as a big part of the reason that I put this book out, and then the complement to this book would be Wintrepreneur, being a Wintrepreneur, because I played for 2 college programs. One was a Division II program. The other one that you just saw, Stony Brook, is an FCS program. And I got in the game, literally got in the game, maybe 5 plays. All right. But I still ended up with 3 rings. I still ended up with 3 championship rings. And, I was that player that always was a scout team player. I was a scout team player. And I was always the guy that was kind of always, ready to go coaching, because I knew playing the game, I knew that college was going to be my final stop as a player. So I was prepping my mind in terms of how I could see the game, how I could break down the game, even if it isn't coaching per se. I always knew I was going to be doing something of this nature, in which I was going to be using the game to teach somebody how to do something, because the game teaches you so much. It teaches you so much. It teaches you exactly how people are, how things work, how society works. I mean, I'll tell you now, and I'll dive into this a little bit more tomorrow morning when I record my Move Swiftly Thought. But my team, the team I'm a huge, like a psychotic fan of, is the Michigan Wolverines, Michigan football. And they were in the news all yesterday because Sharon Moore, there was a self-imposed 2-game suspension to head coach Sharon Moore because of the text messages that he deleted from Connor Stallions. And, 2 years ago, we can recall Connor Stallions, all the whole sign stealing and all that stuff came about, which again is fair. And I'll kind of give you just a brief, quick take on it now. I'll dive deeper into it in the morning, but it's fair. If again, as a fan, I'm a fan. I get it. So you're probably saying, "Oh, I was on your bias, yada yada yada." I get it. All right, but if they actually did something that created a competitive advantage, I'll come out and be the first one to say, hey, that was wrong. All right. I don't have an issue with saying that. The issue that I have about it is the fact that the suspension was served. They were punished. All right. And what happened that year? They still went out and won a national championship. So at this point, You just got to let it go. I don't know who's still stirring the stuff up or what's going on. When they went out and they went undefeated and they ran the tables and went and won a national championship, I don't exactly know what else you can do. All right. Let's say you had a whole playbook. Let's say you knew everybody's sign. Let's just play and say, all right, look, you knew everybody's sign, and you knew this one's playbook, and you knew that, and kind of style, you knew had all this information, right? Let's just say that. You still got to go play the game, man. You still got to go play the game. And that's what they did. That's what they proved. That's why their championship, the Michigan Wolverines championship, is a very significant one for the game of college football. And again, I'm not just saying that because Ohio State won it this year. Ohio State's was significant too. I will give them 1,000% credit, because when we beat them in the final game, they could have folded. They could have easily folded, gave up on the season, but they didn't. They showed some toughness. They showed some resiliency, and they went out and ran the tables. I got to respect that. As a Michigan fan, hey, I got to respect that. The same way you got to respect the fact that Michigan won a national championship when they were dealing with all of the scrutiny that the world was giving them. All right. That's the truth about it. And that is actually very relatable to what exactly we're going to discuss today in terms of judging the numbers. Measure a person and people based on their character and how exactly they respond during tough times. This bullshit ban that they given Sharon Moore, again, I call it bullshit only because the situation happened 2 years ago, and we saw that, hey, even without the coach, you can still win games. Even without the coach, there's still people showing up, busting their ass and winning games. All of this is just the university trying to save face. All of this is the university trying to avoid PR or avoid bad PR. All of this is the governing bodies, the NCAA, and all the powers that be. They're trying to avoid bad public relations and stuff like that, which again, that's fair, and that's what them doing what they got to do. But when you talk about football organizations, what these men do, whether I'm not just talking about players, but what these men do, from the coaching to the players to the equipment managers to the team managers to the athletic trainers, the people that put their blood, sweat, and tears into the program. When it comes to what they do, it's such a rock solid bond that you will never, no politics and no PR is going to stop that. All right. And that's kind of what I got to say. That's my quick take. But tomorrow morning, I'm going to have a whole lot more to talk about when it comes to that. So let's get to the article before I get too off topic here. So the 5 smartest ways to judge the numbers. All right. As you can see, if you're watching this via video, the book that has been mentioned, in fact, probably more times than my own book on this very show, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, headlines this because of everything. I mean, when it comes to judging numbers and looking at numbers from a standpoint of what they're actually saying, Robert Kiyosaki has done, in my opinion, the best job for me in terms of all the financial education and the financial literacy that the attempts and the things that I've gone out of my way to do to become a lot more financially literate and responsible and things of that nature. Robert Kiyosaki is the first person I heard or introduced me to this concept of putting every single dollar, every single cent you have into assets. Okay. Really asking yourself what an asset is, first of all, and then putting every penny into it, because that is something, I mean, if you can take anything away, it's figuring out what's the asset in your life and what's the liability. Where's my money going? Is it going into these liabilities, or is it going into these assets? If it's going into the assets, hey, all it takes is meeting the right people, you two connecting, or you and this person really figuring out how to create win-win opportunities, and that will work itself out over time. Versus if it's a liability, your ass is grass. I'm stealing a quote from my mother. My beautiful mother, Ms. Deborah Cruikshank, would tell me that all the time. That was one of her main quotes. She goes, "Your ass is grass." So when it comes to your money and where you putting your money, if all of your shit is going into liabilities, I'm going to say it again. Your ass is grass. And I'm going to leave it at that. You got a motherfucking problem because this artificial intelligence, AI, all that stuff coming, the shit is happening and it's happening now. And if your stuff is tied up into liabilities and your money's tied up into clothes and going club it, and you gotta be here, you gotta be kind of if it's tied up into shit that is just a liability, your ass is grass. So I'm gonna leave it at that. All right, read it from the article directly. Top 5 smartest ways to judge the numbers. All right, so here we go. We started the week with a heavy question from Make and Move Monday. What do the numbers say? If you caught that kickoff, then by now you've hopefully been spinning your wheels, asking yourself, how am I judging the numbers presented to me? Or better yet, am I even around people who are teaching me how to judge numbers the right way to get the life I want? Say that one again. This is important for you to hear, for the people in the back. Okay? It says, am I even around people who are teaching me how to judge numbers the right way to get the life I want? Bang, bang, chickadee bang, 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 bang. Hit ya. Boom, baya chaka. The life I want. You got to know the life you want. You got to know the life you want and then attract the right people. And then you're going to be able to figure out, okay, am I putting myself in a situation in which my money is leading towards the life I want? But you have to figure out what the hell kind of life you want. And you need to have those answers on your own. You need to have that answer before you start doing shit for other people, before you start running into other folks and then trying to, mosey up and work with other people. You need to have the answer of the life you want before you run into other folks. That is incredibly important for you to understand. All right. A lot of people don't get that. You miss that. You start running into folks and then you start, living your life for them and doing what you got to do for them. But shit, you don't even know what the hell it is you want. You don't even know what's on your heart and what you desire, what you're trying to get out of life. You haven't made those sacrifices yet. So it's important that you got to know the life you want. What is it? All right. Back to the article. So that's a critical distinction. As you can see, I wrote this. So certain parts of it I write to introduce and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, that's a critical distinction because in life, numbers are everywhere, but it's not the numbers that make the difference. It's how you interpret them. Repeat. It's on repeat, folks. It's on repeat. That's a critical distinction because in life, numbers are everywhere, but it is not the numbers that make the difference. It's how you interpret them. It's how you interpret the numbers, how you interpret them. So today, giving you the top 5 ways to judge the numbers with wisdom, perspective, and power. Okay, first and foremost, character. We're at the list now, folks. We're at the list. We made it to the list. I know I start talking, but these top 5 Tuesdays get me fired up. They come from a real place. All right, number 1. Character. It's counting down the top 5 ways to judge the numbers. Number 1 is character. Here it is. Let's start with something that can't be measured on a scoreboard. Who you are when nobody's watching. Character is defined as the mental and moral qualities distinctive to an individual. Keyword, moral, as in knowing the difference between right and wrong and having the integrity to act accordingly. Too often, we judge people based solely on a grade point average, test scores, or the number in their bank account. And while those metrics might matter in certain rooms, they're not the whole story. It's a big lesson here, guys. All right, so stay tuned because I'm going to dive deeper into this. One of the best sales lessons I ever received came during my time at LA Fitness. My manager would review our production reports he would review our production reports and point to one column, new leads column, the new leads column, all right, and say, this tells me who's really hustling. You're going to hear more no's than yeses, But if you're still putting in new names every day, that tells me everything I need to know about your character. Effort counts, persistent counts, hustle is a number 2. If you know where to look, okay? Hustle and how much hustle and grind you got in you. If you know where to look, if you know how to look, you can judge that number. So it's sort of a contradiction because a lot of people you gotta really understand that. And why I started by saying, okay, character is not something that can't be measured on a scoreboard. Who you are when no. Let's start with something. Yeah. So let's start with something that can't be measured on a scoreboard. So yes, most of the time when we think about numbers, right, we're measuring it on a scoreboard, or we're measuring it in a bank account, or we're measuring it on a grade point average. But you can't measure character on a scoreboard, but there is a way of measuring it. All right. There is a way of measuring it. That's the stuff that they don't teach you in the school system, folks. That's the kind of shit that you don't get on your traditional education and conventional nonsense that they put your kids through and they poison your kids with. Character is something that can be measured. Character is something that can be measured. Say it again. Character is something that can be measured. And the story that I put in the article is very, very clear on the way how to do that. All right. So now, most of the time, it's usually in sales, right? Sales is the way that you're able to measure it because you see who has the ability to get told no, get their ass back up and say, I'm good. Keep telling me no. And I'm going to just keep figuring out stuff along the way. Figure out why they told me no. Figure out what it is I need to do better. Take some damn accountability for what the hell it is you want to do. And in fact, this morning, I was listening to Nick Saban, and he was presenting Donald Trump to he gave the commencement. So President Donald Trump gave the commencement speech at the University of Alabama, and Nick Saban introduced him. And Nick Saban said something that he has repeated from day one, from the day 17 years ago when he took the job at Alabama. He says, you got to be responsible for your own self-determination. You got to be responsible for your own self-determination. So if you have some determination and you walk in, especially if you're talking in the football context, if you're talking about an Alabama football player, they're walking in oozing with confidence and saying that I'm going to be the best and I'm this and I'm that and I'm that. You got to be responsible for it. So when he asks you to get your ass up and run these hills and run these wind sprints and be first every single time, that's character when you know you have the ability. All right. So again, how do you measure? I want to make sure I'm on the record saying this because I can start rambling. I can start rambling on this. Like I said, so the manager, when I was at LA Fitness, I was fortunate enough to work underneath a manager named Dupree, his name is Dupree, and he would make sure, like, he was huge in the sales. I think now he's last I checked, he's a VP with the organization now. And he was a very active seller, constantly on it, always asking us, always staying on us. Did you make your calls? Did you make your calls and set appointments for tomorrow? All that kind of stuff, right? So when he had us in a meeting, it was like a quick meeting where every single day, and I'd watch people like that. It's always been a habit of mine to watch folks who have done it before and watch folks who are walking around that just got it, can go out, sell, do their thing, right? So what I used to do, or what happened, was he would print out the production report, and he had us all sitting down at a table. And as he's going through the numbers and he looks, okay, this is how many sales you made. This is the percentage of closing rates. This is percentage of this, percentage of that. And then he looks at it and goes, okay, look, this is how I'm going to know who's hustling. This is how I'm going to know who's really hustling. If these new leads column right here, these new leads, if this doesn't go up, and these percentages aren't changing, that means your ass is just sitting around hoping people sign up. That's how you measure character, because we know going in, you're going to get told no way more often than you're going to get told yes, because it's the gym people that are signing up. 98% of the world doesn't work out, right? And then part of the percentage that does work out, they found, like a situation that I showed you here, they found like a trainer like me, someone like a boxing trainer like me, that they could do it with a friend or group, and they do their workout there. So instead of signing up to a gym, they would prefer to be involved with something like this. So that percentage that actually does work out, there's probably someone like me who's taking members or taking potential members from an LA Fitness or from an entity like that. So if you were like me at one point, your job depended on selling memberships at LA Fitness, okay, we got to know if you hustling, because if you're not putting in 10, 15, probably 40 leads in here, then you don't have a chance of anyone telling you yes. So the character to keep going when you the likelihood of you being told no is very, very high. That is how you measure character. Can you keep going when it doesn't? It's a struggle. All right. So that's number one. Number one is character. All right. Let's get to number two. Logic. Now, we touched on this a little bit yesterday. When I was talking to you about Mike Hibbs and what he's all about, and how that was actually a shock, because he's a critical thinker and real philosopher type person. You never know if they like math or like mathematicians and stuff like that. But logic is incredibly important. And I'm going to read directly from the article now. So logic here, reading it directly, podcast listeners, so tune in. Logic. This is where I'll be honest. Logic wasn't always my strong suit. I'm a dreamer. And I'm a dreamer, an entrepreneur, a visionary, and sometimes I need to be reined in. All right. Thankfully, I've surrounded myself with logical minds. My father runs his own architecture firm. I'm dating an accountant, and I recently interviewed an engineer on my show who said something that stuck with me. He said, I'm quoting him directly here. He said, if I'm even, now he's an engineer, the person's an engineer, he spent time as an engineer. I don't have time to go back and look at the episode now, but it's there. And by the way, if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe and like, share, and all that kind of stuff, because new stuff comes out every single day. So the engineer, he said, if I'm even 1 inch off of my calculations while designing a bridge, the whole thing could collapse and people die. I want that to sit with you. I'm going to repeat it very calmly in case you missed it. Said, this is an engineer talking to me directly on the Move Swiftly podcast, said, if I'm even 1 inch off in my calculations while designing a bridge, the whole thing could collapse and people could die. I grew up in Silver Spring, Maryland. I was actually already moved out here in Florida when the Francis Scott Key Bridge, I believe in Baltimore, had collapsed, and it cost the city, millions of dollars, and people were harmed. It was a horrible, horrible experience. This is what he's referring to. All right, he wasn't referring to that situation specifically, but I think around that, I want to say we actually did the interview around that time, if I'm not mistaken. But when he said that, it's important that you understand that why number two is logic, why numbers matter, is because you can be involved in something that's heavily math related. And if you don't have actual measurables and actual specific measurables about how big something could be, and it has to be on the inch to the inch, people can die. And that is something that is absolutely horrendous. And we do not want that. So let that sit with you. In certain roles, and reading directly from the articles, folks. All right. In certain roles, engineers, doctors, coders, designers, precision isn't optional. It's life or death. So when you're judging numbers, use logic. Ask yourself, does this add up? Is there structure behind this vision? Am I building something solid, or am I just selling smoke? Huge one. Because as entrepreneurs, we have a habit of doing this, right? But we lie to ourselves all the time. We tell ourselves this can happen, that can happen, and we put together a great vision and a great plan and a great thing that we want to do in the long term. But logically, how you're going to get there, that's where, like I said, you need to be reined in. You need to be around folks that can get you to see something from a logical perspective. A doctor, an engineer, an accountant, One of the reasons that my father loves architecture so much, I remember asking him what got him into architecture. And he would tell me, because he loved the math, that when you think about being a designer and designing something designing whatever it is you're going to design for a building, all of these measurements have to be very on point, very precise in your measurements. So the logic component of this, the logic component of this is very, very important in terms of top 5 ways. By the way, top 5 ways, judging the numbers, top 5 ways on how to judge the numbers. So logic is number 2. Number 3, very self-explanatory, ability. Is your ass good enough? This is why. Listen to me, man. This is why. So I coached high school for 2 seasons, right? And shout out to Deshaun Anderson. He was the head coach. He was the head coach when I was there, Blake High School in Silver Spring, Maryland. And he spent a lot of time as a track coach, and he would made a point to tell the boys all the time, track is a part of the football program. He made it. It was a requirement that all the players actually ran track. And one of the things, and I would obviously be involved a little bit and, head to the meets when I can and all that kind of stuff, because track is during this time of year in the spring. So one of the things about track, and actually even now, myself as a runner, and I still compete in 5Ks, 10K. I do still plan on running a marathon, but as you know, life gets in the way and all that. But again, the plan is to run an actual marathon at some point very, 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 very soon. But even in situations like that, it's, can you do it or can you not? Straight up. Can you make your 100 meter in whatever seconds it is, or can you make the 800 meter in whatever the time frame is? Do you have the ability to do it or not? Straight up. It's either you got it or you don't. It's either you got it or you don't. It's either you're good enough or you're not. That's what I mean when I say ability. That's why the combine and the NFL combine, all of that shit picks up so much press and so much attention, is because they're able to simply judge by numbers. All right. They're able to measure a 40 time and say, okay, we can put this person in certain packages because he's fast enough to execute whatever plan it is we have. This person benched 40 reps on the bench press. It's a 225 and they benched it 40 times. So he's strong enough to carry out this vision, of carry out or be able to execute this bull rush, and he can throw somebody down. That's what we mean when you say ability. Is the mofo good enough? All right. That's what you got to ask yourself. So let me read it. So I'm reading directly from the article, podcast listeners. So let's not overthink this one. Can they do the job or not? No fluff, no hype, no PR team spinning the story. Perfect example, the 2025 NFL draft. Shedeur Sanders dominated the media, had impressive personal stats, and brought headlines wherever he went. But the win-loss record, not good. His bowl game performance, subpar, and that's being nice. He looked like ass during that game against BYU. And when it came time to show and prove at the NFL Combine, he didn't compete. He didn't even show up. Meanwhile, the other QBs who did compete, got picked higher, and rightfully so. The numbers don't lie. When it comes to actual performance, ability still matters. Right here should answer all the questions, right, that you may have had about Shedeur Sanders and why he slipped to the 5th round. All right. When it comes to how if you're that type of pick, if you're a pick that they obviously don't see as somebody that's starting right away, your ass needed to be competing in the combine. You don't get to go with your hat backwards, give an interview, and just walk around like you just established. No. Again, if you want to have your hat backwards, have your hat backwards, but get your ass out there and compete, do something. Because you're not being graded out as the guy that can come in and start day one. So go and compete, because we need to see what you actually have the ability to do. Granted, when it comes to your win-loss record and where you played and your personal stats at Colorado, all of that very impressive and very much talented, but the combine is an opportunity to put some numbers out there that actually can show, do you have the ability to do something or do the things that we're asking of you? That's what happened. And that is true in every industry and everything you do is you got to prove yourself. You got to actually have some numbers attached to your ability to do something. If you don't have that, you're just talking. You're just fucking talking, man. Ain't nobody trying to hear that. After a while, it's just like, look, you just fucking talking, right? Talk is cheap. Talk is cheap. All right, let's go to the next one. Because I'm getting fired up, and I'm working towards keeping those 45 minutes. So number 4, count down. Top 5 ways to judge the numbers. Top 5 ways to judge the numbers. Number 4, value, folks, value. This is one of my favorite measures of success because it separates the flashy from the foundational, okay? Want to know how someone really thinks, watch how they spend their money, all right? And we touched on this at the beginning, so I'll kind of skim through this a little bit because we talked about it at the beginning. I always recommend Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki for this exact reason. He teaches that it's not about how much money you have, it's about how you use it. Assets make your money long-term. Liabilities drain it. So when judging someone's numbers, go deeper than the surface. Are they building wealth or just buying distractions? Real value is measured by long-term impact, not short-term clout. That one is absolutely self-explanatory. Absolutely self-explanatory. That you gotta get a hold of that. And I know it's a lot easier said than done because if you have a certain number, you see a nice, cool thing, you want to buy it, and you feel like, hey, look, I earned my money. I'm going to go spend it on this and spend it on that. But you gotta be disciplined. This all requires a great deal of discipline, and you gotta know exactly what it is you want to do. So that dictates the value that you actually see in something. All right. That's going to dictate the mindset that you create, the way you condition your mind before you go out to the store or whatever it is in the marketplace. That's going to dictate, okay, is this thing actually going to be valuable? The reason I recently bought a new car in December was because for me personally, I wanted to get back into being in a hybrid. I know the amount of times I drive. I know how much I actually use my car every single day. And the fact that all the Camrys from here on out, 2025 and beyond, are going to be hybrid, I'm like, okay, that's a value. That's a value. It wasn't about the shiny, how cool and nice the car looks. It was all about the value it was going to create day to day versus what I had before, which was an all gas Corolla that I had run out of the warranty and the 2-year window where they, do all the oil changes and stuff like that. All that stuff had ran out. So if anything went wrong with that particular car, it was coming out of pocket. So again, with this car, I have the peace of mind knowing how much I actually use it. That's what I mean when I say value. And it can happen. I don't recommend everyone just do it. I don't recommend everyone just go buy a new car. But when you think about the value, you got to think about the value based on your lifestyle and based on how you live your life and what it is you plan on doing. Me personally, I have to be able to, one day I'm in West Palm Beach. The next day, I got to be able to make it to Panama City if need be, if there's an opportunity. I got to be able to make it to Atlanta. I got to be able to make it to Miami. I got to be able to go from Miami and then, all right, maybe you got to head over to Fort Lauderdale. That's the way the lifestyle works when you're an entrepreneur and you put your stuff out there like that. But again, I'm not saying this because it has to be you. I'm saying this because you got to ask yourself what your lifestyle actually looks like in order for you to be a success. All right. Final one. And this one is kind of just a follow up from all 4 of them. So that's why, we could kind of wait. I'll close you guys out just with this concept. All right. So final one, number 5, the future. All right. If you apply the first 4, what we talked about, character, logic, ability, and value, the 5th one takes care of itself. Your future will be bright. So bright, in fact, I'm dropping the mic on this article and picking up my sunglasses. Get it? Bright. I'll need sunglasses. But seriously, judge the numbers, judge the right numbers, and you'll start attracting the right results. This is how you take control of your life, your team, and your growth. Period, point blank, end of sentence. All right. When you break down this list was very much how you need to be structuring your life in order for in order for you to go and get the things that you are, like Nick Saban said, you're self-responsible, your self-determination, be responsible for your self-determination, character, character, logic, ability, and value. Take those 4. And then number 5, that future is incredibly bright, but all 4 of them have to be working in alignment. They have to be working in alignment. All right. So all that being said, tomorrow we'll be breaking down another Wintrepreneur Wednesday, where we are discussing a lot more on focusing on high ticket sales and how to really ask yourself, okay, if that's the case, I need to be making sure I'm committing myself to working with more high performing individuals and people that are really about high performing results. And we'll break all that down tomorrow. All that being said, the main website again, makeyourmove.com, is your one-stop shop for your teamwork and your self-development needs. Be sure to go there and inquire about the employee development workshops. As one Crookshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, checking out. You guys continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.